So let's then apply the idea of that type of leadership, so either the step 2 or the step 3, to the idea of a seamless supply chain. So at the bottom, I've given one example of a supply chain that includes procurement, manufacturing, distribution, customer service and supply chain planning. So the first step in an organisation might be to ensure that within each of those functions everybody works together. So if there's multiple manufacturing sites, is there sharing of knowledge, is there collaborative environment? Same for distribution, same for customer service and procurement. And once you start to develop a seamless approach within the supply chain, then the idea is that you know, in an organisation where there are multiple strategic business units, so that's what an SBU is up the top there, you can start to apply this seamless supply chain as a value add to each of the SBUs. So rather than the SBU having to go to individual people in the supply chain, they can actually go to one person who now represents the whole supply chain. So it makes for a very much more powerful supply chain capability. And what it does mean is that everyone in the supply chain starts to be aware of what everybody else is doing and capable of doing. So if we go back to the leadership styles in the previous slide, we're working with this step 3 or 2 where people start to understand each other and start to care about each other's success. So rather than a focus that's on the function only, what we're talking about now is that we're talking about a broader interest in other departments in your area, and ultimately then strategic business units whereby the supply chain is offering services to them. So in this example it might be manufacturing a range of products or the like. So that's the concept of seamless supply chain. So it is about removing the silos, getting people to work together, building a capability based on the high-performing teams and the leadership styles. And the overall picture there is one whereby we start to add, so we want everybody to be independent and be responsible, self-responsible for their own job and look after that job themselves without having a manager standing over them. But once we get to that point where there's a good degree of independence, we then start to focus on the interdependence, which means that people start to see things upstream and downstream, and rather than just self-interest, which is the independent picture, they start to have an interest in the other. So we create a different mindset and a different feeling around what success looks like, and it's consistent with this idea of a cross-functional process, which is what we know the supply chain is. It's not one silo, but it's multiple. We need to break down those silos and create one process. So interdependence is the phrase that I think will become more and more common over the next 5 to 10 to 20 years, and already we can see things like sales and operations planning is based on the concept of interdependence. That's now evolved into integrated business planning, and integrated business planning suggests more seamlessness in the organisation, because now we're including finance and other areas that historically weren't included in S&OP, which was the balancing of demand and supply. We're now adding in integrated business processes the idea of value. As well as volume and mix, we've now got value. And we start to challenge the idea that we need to do a budget, for example.